Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Class E Podcast. I am your host, Mary Sturgill. This podcast is the podcast that's brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here on Furman University's campus. This particular episode is part of our Everyday Entrepreneur series, in which we talk and discover the stories of the folks who have gone through our Greenville Starts program, who have graduated from that program. And today we welcome a very special guest, Candace Morris, who is the founder and CEO of the Launch Ready Method. Candace, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mary. I'm excited to be here.
So you graduated from South Carolina State with a degree in social work.
I did. Wow, you've done your research.
How do you, well, we try. Our producers do that research, which I'll talk about more later. But how do you take that and turn it into what you're doing now? Kind of take us through that journey.
Yeah, I'll try to give you a Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
And for the young listeners right now, Reader's Digest was
right.
a book.
We need to explain, yeah.
I'm just kidding. You can Google it. We won't go
the
into
Cliff's
that.
Notes. You probably know those.
It's the Cliff's Notes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously I got my degree in social work. I have a history working with young people with autism, and then I migrated over into education. So I worked in a high school for several years. I was a student life coordinator, which is not a typical title that you would have at a public high school. Usually you hear that in a college setting.
Right.
But we were a charter school, so we kind of marched to the beat of our own drummer. And so in that position, I oversaw several programs: our internship program, community service, advisory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you're a nonprofit, you wear a lot of hats.
Right, for sure.
Especially in education.
Yeah.
And so as I was pioneering the internship program, I'm getting to your question, I hope. I was able to utilize some of those social work skills that I had learned. And really, social work is helping people degree. Yeah. It's a chameleon degree. You can go into a lot of different areas with that, whether it's with education or mental health or gerontology or alcohol and drug abuse. I mean, it's a chameleon degree, but I ended up going the education route. So did that answer your question?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
How
it's a great fit for what you're doing. So tell us about the Launch Ready Method and what that is.
Yeah. The Launch Ready Method is an online, on-demand courseware curriculum that helps prepare 16 to 24-year-olds for the professional world. So 16 to 24-year-olds, why that age range? Well, the state of South Carolina considers that youth. So 16 to 24 is what they define as the age of youth.
Right.
And so it is a 3-stage program. We recommend that young people go through it, give themselves about 3 months to go through the curriculum, but they can pace themselves through it. So if they want to get through it faster or take more time, they can. But each stage is a little different to help them prepare.
Yeah.
And to give you a little bit of background of how I even came up with these stages.
Yeah, because I'm wondering about, well, first of all, how you came up with the idea and you saw a need because you were working in high school. So I'm sure you saw the need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this really was birthed out of the internship program that I had created for the high school that I was at. So I was approached by the principal at that time. Hey, we need an internship program. Can you do that? Oh, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Google how to do an internship program. And so through that process and starting to work with these young people in that regard, I realized that there were a lot of gaps between them actually being prepared professionally. I mean, there's a lot of other things that they may not be prepared for, like financial literacy, or like how to iron a shirt,
100%,
or make a pot of coffee, have
do the laundry,
have a difficult conversation with a coworker.
Right.
But I wanted to hone in more specifically on those professional skills that would help prepare them, whether they went to college or straight into the workforce or what have you.
Yeah.
So I would have students come to me all the time who wanted internships. Miss Candace, I want an internship. Awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I don't know, accounting. Okay, cool. You must really like math. No, I hate it. All right. Wait, let's back up. Let's back it up a little bit. Okay, so you hate math, Why do you want an internship in accounting? Well, my friend's dad did it. He made a lot of money, so I guess I'll do that too. Okay, but what are you interested in? I don't know. You're not interested in anything? Well, I mean, I like TikTok. Okay, write that down. It's valid.
That's valid, yeah.
What else are you interested in? Nothing. And I started realizing that this was a common thing for a lot of young people. Obviously, not all young people, but a lot of them are just kind of in this place of, oh, oh crap, I'm
What do
about
I do
to
now?
launch
Yeah.
into the real world. And I don't even know what I want to do. I don't even know who I am or what I'm interested in or what I'm good
Yeah.
at. And a lot of people end up just arbitrarily picking degrees because they think it makes a lot of money or
It's
they
true.
know somebody that did
Yeah.
it. And so then they
My cousin's uncle or whatever.
right,
Yeah.
right. They get the
Yeah.
student loans and they
Mhm.
go and pursue that degree and then they graduate and they're like, I don't want to do this.
Right, right.
And then they end up, years down the road. Now we're constantly evolving as people.
Of
And so
course,
what I
yeah.
liked as a 16-year-old, I might not like as a, 42-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if we can help young people kind of get to that foundation of who are you,
Mm-hmm.
what even is your interest,
Yeah.
and what are you good at? If you hate math, if you're really bad at it, maybe you shouldn't be an accountant
Exactly.
and go to school for 4 years to become one, because it sounds like
And
you're going to
gonna
hate it.
Exactly.
So let's step back a couple steps and let's figure out, first of all, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you like? What are you interested in? What do you value? That's important too. What are
Mhm.
your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And how all of those things tie into what makes sense for you.
Yeah. So you put each of those things, or you probably put that in the first component.
That's stage one.
Yeah, stage one,
Mhm.
where the students kind of do a self-reflection
Mhm.
and figure out what am I passionate about? What do I like? What do I dislike?
Right.
And what area might I want to go in?
Yeah.
That's good, because the kids that age really don't do a lot of self-reflecting, especially in that way.
right.
You know.
Now, I'm nothing against the education system. They do things like try to teach them how to write resumes
Mhm.
or, get ready for college essays, things like that. And those things are important, but they're not everything.
Right.
So that's why the first stage is know yourself.
Yeah.
Really, that's the foundation.
Yeah.
Before you can know how to think like a professional, you really need to know who you are
Right.
and what you have to offer the world.
Yeah.
And even the areas where you're weak and things that can be improved.
Of course.
And so then
Because you're going to get that question in an interview.
Every time.
Every time.
every time.
Yeah.
And that, leads us into stage 2,
Mhm.
working with the population that I had worked with. I remember I had one student who came up to me. He was so excited. Miss Candace, I just applied for this job. Can I show you this email that I just sent? I'm like, yeah, show it to me. His email address was seymourButts@gmail.com.
Oh my goodness.
His Google,
Oh my
I'm leaving out the numbers of the email
right.
address in case any of you
Just in
try
case.
to email
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Okay. And then his Gmail image
Mhm.
was the picture of a dog's anus. I know that's disgusting, but this
Yeah.
is what really happened.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, "You're not going to get that job."
Nope.
He was like, he was
100% no.
dumbfounded. He was
Yeah.
like, "What?
Yeah.
Why?" Let me talk to you about professionalism.
Mhm.
And it's not just knowing how to write a resume or a cover letter, because those things are important. But let's talk about the fact that you just portrayed yourself as a really unprofessional person.
Yes.
And you may not even get to the point of an interview.
Right.
Good for you for applying for this job. That takes a lot of courage. But let's take a couple steps back and
Yeah.
let's teach you how to think like a professional.
Yeah.
How does a professional write an email? Do you know how to write an email? Do you know how to make a phone call? What about your personal brand? The first thing an employer is going to do when they're looking at your resume is they're going to look you up on social media.
Absolutely.
Hate it, but it's true.
It's true.
And if you have your profile picture as you flipping the bird or like
Mhm.
doing a cake stand or whatever, it's not going to look good for you in a professional setting.
Right.
Now, maybe if you're applying, for a job at a keg company, maybe they'll love that. But
Right.
what's the likelihood,
right.
know?
Exactly.
So teaching you those skills of what is it an employer is looking for,
Yeah.
what are hard skills, what are soft skills, how to network, public speaking, yes,
Mhm.
resume writing, cover letters, but also things like emotional intelligence and conflict resolution and how to quit a job.
Oh, conflict resolution is huge.
It is, yeah.
All of it's huge, but that's very huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, those things from stage 1 feed into stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses and you know what you value, it helps you learn what type of work environments might be a better fit for you.
Right. Right.
I know that if I really value honesty, I do my values assessment, and honesty is like top 1 on that assessment.
Right.
Then maybe working for a cutthroat environment where it's like, we're gonna throw whoever we need to under the bus
yeah.
to succeed, or everything's about billable hours. Maybe that's not going to be for me.
Right.
But there may be for other people where they're going to thrive in those environments. So one, knowing yourself, and then two, knowing how to be a professional.
Yeah.
And the last stage is putting it all into practice.
Right.
Let's simulate opportunities for you to practice these interview skills, these networking skills, these public speaking opportunities, and show off who you are to the world.
Yeah.
So when you finish this program, you are ready to confidently launch.
Yeah. So talking of launching, you went into Greenville Starts, and this was your idea that you pitched to get into the cohort.
Yeah.
What have you done since you graduated from Greenville Starts, and where are you now in this process?
Yeah. I tell a lot of people the thing that was really great about Greenville Starts is it let me know what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never started a business before. This is my first go of it. And hopefully it's going to be wildly successful. Okay. But as I came in, my to-do list was maybe like 5 things. I'm like, I got my LLC. Easy. We're off to the races.
Yeah.
Business done.
Yeah.
And then I started learning more about, the legal side of things and intellectual property and business license and, venture capital and all of these things that I just were like, I was like the boy who had the Seymour Butts Gmail. I was like, what? Just like dumbfounded. Like, what? My to-do list went from 5 things to so many things.
Right.
And so I really value my time in Greenville Starts because it felt like it lifted the lid to the well of knowledge and asking those questions. And so it pushed some of my deadlines back further.
Yeah.
But for a good reason.
Of course, yeah.
And so that way I can build a business plan and a business model that really is fully fleshed and has a better foundation for when I do fully launch the launch ready method.
Yeah. How will you find clients, I think is the question, because you were working in a high school environment where the clients were right in front of you and the need was right in front of you. But how do you take this out of the high school and into the community?
Yeah. Well, we're technically don't necessarily want to take it out of the high school, but also into the community.
Okay. So it's not an or, it's an and.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the way that the platform is set up, an individual can go to the website and sign up for it if they want to, but also schools or youth organizations can sign up for group programming.
I could see how this would be great for youth organizations like the Autism Society, like other organizations that help youth help their students go through this 3-pronged process just as a supplement to what they're getting in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they so need it. Because teachers, honestly, are overworked and can't teach everything.
They are. They are overworked. And when you think about the guidance counseling department, they only have a certain amount of bandwidth. And they're doing the best they can.
And there's generally 1 or 2 per school.
And they're to several hundred students, if not more.
Yeah.
And they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they have to do by state requirements are individualized graduation plans, or as we know, IGPs.
Yeah.
They got to get them done for every single student every single year.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
So they don't have time to sit down and talk about let's talk about why this isn't professional.
Right.
Maybe in a quick, pass by conversation with a student, they will.
Right.
But if they can have a curriculum that's already set in place, that's online, and their teachers or their guidance counseling department can decide how they want to pace their student body through it, they can.
Right.
Or maybe they just do it with the freshmen. Maybe they just do it with the senior class, or maybe they do it with their student body government.
Yeah.
They can decide how they want to deliver and implement that program.
That would be a great project for beta clubs and student body organizations have to take on. Projects, community projects and whatnot. This would be a great project for them to take on to provide for their school.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
Think. Yeah.
I think
my brain is just going on. And for those of you who are listening, the ch was my brain turning for my little sound effect there. So you got what you needed to know from Greenville Starts, and you're in the process of launching in the fall. Branching out into the community, what mistakes have you made along the way that you're like, oh, wish I'd known that one?
Oh man, where do you want me to start? No, I think that it's just been a learning process. I will say that I haven't made any major mistakes that have genuinely set me back.
Right.
I think there's some things like intellectual property that I wish I would have started sooner, but it's not like it's too late.
Yes, because you are creating, this intellectual property is a huge issue because you are creating a curriculum that came out of your personal experience in your brain, right? So this is your intellectual property. We have an intellectual property attorney podcast episode that we did who was great on that topic. So if those of you who are listening who are curious about intellectual property, then I suggest you go back and listen listen to that episode with Doug Lineberry, because it was an excellent source of information on intellectual property and the things that you need to do. So, yeah,
absolutely. And it's just, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until we had attorneys come and speak to our class in Greenville Starts about intellectual property that I was like, ooh, yeah. Thankfully, I'm not patenting anything, because like with you have patents, that's like a whole other ball game.
It is.
But still, with the things that are coming from my brain and this curriculum that's
you want to copyright it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a bit of a process.
Yeah.
And knowing as well,
it's not hard, but it's to know that you need to do it and when you need to do it.
Right. And I would say that probably one of the other mistakes that I made, or just that I've learned, is that I can't do it all by myself.
Right.
And I have to reach out to people who are professionals in their fields to help me with these certain things. Like, I'm not an intellectual property law attorney.
Right.
I don't know how to write a contract for, I mean, I could go online and Google something, but I would much rather have someone who is a professional in that field write a contract that I would give to a school for a group rate. Yeah. You know, and same thing with finances. You know, luckily I've got an incredible CPA that, you know, has got his eye on the ball. Yeah. But there's no way I'm going to QuickBooks my way through this. Right. That's me personally.
Yeah.
Because I know my strengths.
Because you know your strengths and your weaknesses. Right. I've been through the program.
Let me write the curriculum. You guys help me figure out the numbers and the legal and tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do.
Right.
So I would say that's probably what I would call the quote unquote mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just learning that when you're an entrepreneur and when you're starting a business, that it takes a village.
It does.
To successfully do it.
Yeah.
It really does. And just having people that you trust that are in your corner.
Yeah. That's huge too, because most entrepreneurs still keep their day job while they're still trying to launch whatever venture they're trying to launch, until they get to a place where they feel like they can stop working at their day job and work and commit fully 100% of their time to their venture.
Oh yeah.
And that's the way you have to do it until it takes off.
Oh yeah. I remember having conversations with Brian Davis, the Greenville Starts man himself, about, just having those moments where I was like, what am I doing? Yeah. What am I doing? This is a mistake. I'm an idiot. Why am I doing this? I'm a glutton for punishment. Starting a business, that's dumb. Why am I doing it?
In a pandemic.
You're crazy. Go work your 9 to 5 and get your 401k and your health benefits. Like, don't be an entrepreneur. That's crazy. Yeah. And, the encouragement that I received from Greenville Starts of like, don't give up, keep going. Right. And then even some of, my classmates too, one of my classmates, Erin, she had overheard that conversation and she came over and she was just like, don't give up. Yeah. Keep going. I'm like, okay. All right. It's just really hard. She'd already been 5 years into the process. Right. And I was just a wee baby entrepreneur.
I think that's the great thing about Greenville Starts, is that you have people like Erin who had been 5 years into this process, and you who just had this great idea and was like, I've got to launch this thing, that's in my head that I've been, doing and creating. Yeah. And you feed off of each other and learn from each other. In that program as well. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Greenville Starts, it's an 8-week program hosted by the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship here at Furman. We host it in our downtown space, but it arms local entrepreneurs with the training, as we've talked about, the connections, as we've talked about, access to capital if you happen to need capital, and basically everything you need to successfully launch, like Candace is doing, or grow like Erin was doing. Yeah. And then you pitch your ideas and you have the opportunity to win $5,000 to go toward your venture. And I think it's a wonderful program because I think, if nothing else, at the very basic need for it, it's creating that ecosystem of entrepreneurs who can feed off of each other and support each other.
Oh yeah, that community is really important too, and just cheering one another on.
Yeah.
And all of our successes, no matter how big or small,
Right.
they're all wins.
Yeah.
Right. So I got my LLC. Whoa, that's amazing. I just got the keys to my building.
Right.
Whoa, that's amazing. Like they're all wins. Right.
Right.
And so, specifically talking about Erin, like Greenville Starts, she had already launched her business, but Greenville Starts was still so impactful for her too. And she ended up being able to be one of the winners
Right.
of, and I can speak for myself and what I observed from my other peers, that we were all just so happy for her.
Yes.
And just so excited for her. And
Yeah.
that's the general vibe and attitude in that environment. It's just this, let's celebrate one another. Let's encourage one another to keep going, to not give up. Let's ask each other the hard questions. Like I said, it takes a village.
I know you're new in your venture, but do you have a philosophy of entrepreneurship?
A philosophy. I don't know about a philosophy of entrepreneurship. I still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And I still have some time to get under my belt.
For sure.
It.
Yeah.
But I will say that I've got a motto for this season of life, and it's pace yourself. I think when I look at the to-do list, everything that needs to get done, it can be so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And not just the things that need to get done, but the resources you need to do it.
Right.
It can be overwhelming and discouraging sometimes, and it makes you want to throw in the towel. And so I think what I've learned through this past year, and especially through Greenville Starts, is you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so when you're looking at that mountain and it seems insurmountable, it's overwhelming. Self-sabotage probably starts to set in. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And so then maybe you just shut down and your productivity slows down because you're just trying to take it all at once, and you can't.
And the key is not to get paralyzed by that fear. Right. Yeah.
And so I think that's what I wouldn't call it my philosophy, maybe, but that's
I like the motto.
But that's my motto right now is just pace yourself.
Yeah.
And then maybe next time you and I talk, I can tell you my philosophy.
You know what? It's not a 5K, it's a marathon.
Yes.
So you should pace yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Candace, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It has. It's so much fun. All right, folks, remember, if you or someone has an idea or has a business that they want to take to the next level, Greenville Starts may just be the place to do that. All you have to do to find out how to get to the next cohort is to Google Greenville Starts in Furman, and it should be the very first thing that pops up. Get yourself on the list for the next cohort. And of course, that will help get you plugged into the Hill Institute and all of the things that the Hill Institute is doing on Furman campus and out into the community in Greenville. So get yourself on that list, or your friends on the list, or whoever on the list, so that you can get plugged into what we're doing here. That does it for this episode of the Class E Podcast. I am your host, Mary Sturgill. Remember, this podcast is brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. It's produced by student producers Kayla Patterson and Eliza Polich, who research our guests, who create the rundowns for me, who edit everything together and produce this wonderful podcast for all of you, where you can, of course, find it on wherever you listen to your podcast and on our YouTube channel. So they're editing 2 versions of it for you every episode that we put out. That is a true example of the Furman advantage. And again, I'm your host, Mary Sturgill. Until next time, everybody, dream big.